Okay, Arsenal fans, breathe. Arsenal nil, Liverpool nil. Welcome to the Gooner Pavilion. And listen, this was one of those games where we really wanted to make a statement, especially what happened at Anfield. It was a frustrating game. It wasn't a bad game. It wasn't sort of like a bad performance. And I know the emotions feel like that, but this was a frustrating game. It was tight, it was tense, and these are the kind of games that are decided by margins. When we played Liverpool, it was decided by a wonderful free kick. We didn't have that in this game, and it felt like that's what this game really needed. So, guys, let's just slow it down properly. Let's do what we do. Gotta do my job on this. Three ups, three downs. Let's get into it. Arsenal nil, Liverpool nil. Okay, let's start with the first half because Arsenal were the better side in that first half. This possession stats suggest that 60% possession. We had long spells camped in Liverpool's half, and we're getting into the box time and time again. We just lacked the finish. And I can't really put it, down to any one thing. We had good play by Saka in the wing when he cut back, and then that ball just didn't hit Zubimendi at the right pace, because that's when we should have taken advantage. Rice had another ball that he crossed in. There was nobody there to put it home. And in games like this, you just miss that margin. Um, and that was just Arsenal in that first half, detecting territory, managing tempo. Liverpool camped, in that first half. Really, it was like a back six, with two false nine. I think it was Verts and Soboslai were playing almost as two false nine, and Gapo was all the way at the back, defending. So it just kind of tells you what Liverpool came into this game, because Liverpool weren't pressing us high. They weren't breaking through the midfield in the first half. They were surviving, and I guess that matters. So it's got to be an up, right? From that part of the conversation that we control the first half. Okay, the second one is about that defensive authority, right? Hey, listen, as much as we want to be frustrated about this game, we kept a clean sheet. It's something that we haven't done in a long time. And we had defensive control. Liverpool did not look like they were going to score. And yes, there was that mix up between Raya and Saliba and all of that, and Bradley hit the bar. But there was no sustained pressure by Liverpool in the box. It wasn't like I see those last defending or anything like that. Um, and outside of that Conor Bradley moment, Liverpool didn't really open us up. Arsenal were compact, were disciplined, calm in moments of danger. And against, hey, listen, Liverpool is still one of the best transition team in the league, right? The fact that they haven't really been showing that in recent games does mean that we should still respect them, for what they had. They came with a game plan. You got to give them credit for executing that game plan in this game. Third up for me, this one is a subtle one. I mean, I know it's not going to feel like this. It was still a statement, without the result. And I know it doesn't feel like a statement, but tactically it was. Arsenal didn't retreat. We didn't panic. We didn't get overwhelmed. Liverpool came to the Emirates and couldn't impose themselves. But also, it kind of showed, a different side of Arsenal where, if you cannot win the game, you cannot lose the game, right? I'm going to put this game into context when we look at the road to 90, what that means, because this was one of those gauntlet games that I talked about, and there were two games in that bucket, Liverpool and Manchester City. And the reason why, when I was looking at that road to 90, I put this as a gauntlet game because I knew that no matter what Liverpool are, this is always going to be a difficult game. And hey, I was looking for Arsenal to, go out with revenge on their mind, because of what happened at Anfield. But, sometimes that's football. It just doesn't happen. And hey, listen, there's going to be a lot of negative media coming out against Arsenal. You can expect that. Everyone is going to talk about Liverpool. They didn't have a striker. But let me ask you a question. Last season, when Arsenal didn't have any of their strikers, did anybody give us any credit, any sympathy? we're told that we bottled the league, so now you're going to see a lot of people queuing up to give Liverpool excuses. They're going to talk about how Liverpool played very well. They're undefeated in how many games, came to the Emirates, executed the game plan. So hey, we know that's going to happen, but that's part of it. It is part of this journey, trying to get to the title. But guys, as I always do on this show, I've got to do my job. I've got to talk about areas where we can improve, right? Because I always think that there are always two sides, in a football game. There are positives and there are negatives, right? So you've got to be able to take both and see what you can learn from. Right. So the first down for me is that second half. The attacking intent just dropped off. It's just the first couple of minutes in that second half, it just felt like a completely different Arsenal. And, contrary to the way that we've come out in the second half against Villa, against Bournemouth, coming out with real intent against Brighton, coming out with real intent and taking it to the opposition. I was really thinking that Arsenal will come out in that second half and maybe score a goal and then just calm things down. But that wasn't to be. The second half, things just dropped. We had no shots on the target, until stoppage time. Liverpool had a better spell of possession, 65 to 75%, depending on where you're looking at it. And the Emirates crowd started to feel it. You started to see a little bit of nervousness, happening in the crowd. I mean, Arsenal didn't lose control, but Liverpool took control a little bit in that second half. An attacking urgency just faded. And this can't happen at home, right? We've got to be dominant at home. This just adds to another draw, at home. And listen, draws are what's going to kill you in this league. Draws kill you, hold you back from going and achieving what you want to do. So it's going to be a lesson for Arsenal to just really go back and just think about this. Second down is the possession without penetration. We had a lot of that. This was the biggest tactical issue for me, guys. Arsenal had the ball, but didn't consistently hurt Liverpool. Allison really wasn't making world-class saves, in the post. And I thought that, if Liverpool were going to keep Arsenal back and keep us away from the title, it was going to be on the back of Allison making outrageous saves. That didn't happen. We had very few take-ons for a team that had a lot of possession in that first half. Two-thirds of our dribbles came late, and to be fair, that really was Noni Madueke when he came into the pitch. It kind of makes you think, maybe he could have come into the game a little bit earlier because Saka was beginning to fade. And listen, he was getting joy. And it felt to me, Noni Madueke's performance, like the Saka performance in the first couple of minutes. So probably there's something that Mikel Arteta can learn from this game, about trusting the players that he's got on the bench and bringing someone like Noni Madueke, very early on. I know that Saka is a talisman, and anytime he can pop up with an assist, pop up with a crucial pass, or even pop up with a goal. But you saw what Noni Madueke did when he came in. Maybe he should have had a little bit more trust to start the game. Um, Elite teams, right, just move the ball. They do that. And they break the lines, and Arsenal didn't do that enough. Gotta say that we didn't do that enough. Forward passing really only spiked in that last couple of minutes when Arsenal were desperate to win, and Liverpool were like, we came for a point. We can almost see the end of the line. Let's take that point and go home. So it was one of those, kind of performance. Listen, if we had performed like this at the Etihad, I think everyone would be clapping their hands and saying, well done to Arsenal. But it was at home, so it probably stung just a little bit more. Okay, let's talk about it. All right, because I know all of you are already thinking about it, and in my WhatsApp chat, everyone was talking about it. The center forward question, Victor Gyökeres. He had 8 touches in the 64 minutes, and you could argue that one of those ones was, kicking off the ball or something like that. Um, his quietest competitive game for Arsenal, I would say. I don't think it was about effort. I think it was really about profile. And I know that that's frustrating, as it is for Victor Gyökeres. I still think that Arsenal did a lot more when he was on the pitch in terms of entering into the box. We just didn't take those chances in the first half. Um, and against compact, organized sides, Arsenal have still struggled to turn control into presence in the box. So this is not even a Victor Gyökeres problem. It's something that we've seen even before Gyökeres came this season. Something that I thought that was really behind us in terms of teams just sitting in that low block and then just challenging Arsenal to break them down. And let's be clear, Virgil van Dijk, Konate, are a defensive partnership that won the league last season. So they are no mugs. So, when you've got that and then you've got the likes of Gappo talking in, to help, defend, help their fullback, it's always going to be a tough night. And it was going to be a night that was going to be based on moments. And listen, people will forget that he had that reverse, pass that he passed into the box, and we didn't make the most of it. Gyökeres, yes, you would have said you wanted him to be more into the box, but that pass that he made actually resulted in Declan Rice, making a shot towards goal. It was a weak shot, but again, he was in and about things. He was making things different. I know that people talked about Gabriel Jesus and the fact that he should have played, and honestly, um, I don't know. Gabriel Jesus came into the game, and yes, he feels a little bit different. And maybe the thing with Victor Gyökeres is really about aesthetics. He doesn't look that silky. He doesn't look very beautiful on the ball and things like that. But it's something that we got to figure out. And hey, listen, this might just be a betting in season for Victor Gyökeres, right? We're fast running out of games. I was expecting the corner to turn, now that we're in the second half of the game, and him to start to produce. But listen, I think that we've come through a run of games where just before December we were sort of second, I think, and we've ended it being 6 points ahead. So I think that we've come out of this position in a real strong posture from an Arsenal perspective. Um, I think that we're gonna have a couple of games, and FA Cup comes next, against Portsmouth, and then the semi-final against Chelsea. And I think that would start to help set the mood, a little bit. We don't know what Chelsea is gonna look like into that when we go into that game. I'm actually going for that Arsenal Chelsea game at the Emirates, the second leg at the end of the month. So we'll kind of see, how that game pans out. Now, guys, let's zoom out. Let's talk about perspective in this game, right? Because it does matter. um on this channel, we've been talking about the road to 90. Arsenal needs 90 points to win this league. I truly believe that, especially with Manchester City inconsistency. And it's something that it's in our control. We do what we are supposed to do, as I've shared the graphic so many times, and I think we'll be fine. Like I said, this was a gauntlet game, right? From these two games, Arsenal needed a minimum of 4 points, right? And honestly, I wanted the 3 points in this game rather than the one at Etihad, because if we go to Etihad and win there, I don't think that's not just 3 points. That's actually making a statement. So you know, let's be clear. Um, it was always going to be bumpy at some point in time, in this plan. But what does that do for us? Where does that leave us? Well, a draw just changes the maths, a little bit, right? And Arsenal now needs to steal points from the other buckets, right? We need to steal points, from the banking games. We've got to win those, no question about that. We cannot drop points there. And maybe it's that manageable bucket, the bucket that we've got a lot of we've got 9 games in there, that we've got to make sure now, where we're looking for 23 points in that run, maybe about 7 wins, with 2 draws. We now need to convert one of those draws into a win. So that's going to be tough, in order to make up for this drop 2 points. We've got to get those 2 points from somewhere. And whether that's going to be that Spurs game or the Newcastle game at home, because Believe me, Newcastle are going to come to the Emirates with the exact same blueprint that Liverpool had, and they'll be looking to come and steal a point. It really does depend on where Newcastle are in the season, what their momentum is, and where they are. If they're still inconsistent as the way they've been, but that's okay. That's okay. There's a number of games left, for us to be able to do that. So guys, let's look at this, right? This wasn't a setback. It wasn't a warning siren, everything going up. It was just a reminder of what the Premier League is and how difficult it would be to actually go and win this league. Arsenal are good enough to control elite teams, but to win the league, control has to become conviction. And listen, we've always been talking about the stats about Arsenal against a big team. We didn't lose in 2 years before we lost at Liverpool. And even when we weren't winning the title, we were getting good results against the big teams. But that didn't really count. Why? Because we're not taking care of the business against the small teams. And I feel like we're taking care of the business against the small teams. And if we continue that, I think this game is going to be put into perspective and we will forget about this game, very, very quickly because there's going to be draw games. Look, City has drawn 3 times in a row. So Arsenal just needs to take care of business in the FA Cup, go into that Chelsea game, take care of business, or at least allow for us to get back to the Emirates and do something with that. So we're still top, still setting the pace. 8 points could have been the opportunity. It's 6, but it's no panic, no overreaction, guys. Just clarity and execution going forward. Listen, guys, this is where I put a pin to it. Check out for my preview on the Portsmouth game, so that's going to be coming out as well, and also check out my Arsenal 2025 review as well. That's also up on the channel. I think you're going to love that as well. And hey, guys, remember, Gunners, this is going to be a long, long road. It's going to be bumping. We just have to stick with the team, keep the faith, and just go and get this title, right? Okay, so don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, guys. I really appreciate all of you, and share this with as many Arsenal fans as possible. Let's just keep this going. Come on, you Gunners.